Good morning. It's Scott Cullen, editor-in-chief of the Cannata Report. Great to be with you today. It's time for another episode of Fridays with Frank. This morning, Frank has a very special guest, someone he's known for a long time. But before we bring both of them out, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, send Frank your questions. He loves to respond to those. And now, please welcome our founder, Frank Cannata. How you doing, Frank?
Real excited today because we have the pleasure of interviewing an old friend that we have known for many years, Frank Mallozzi. For the benefit of our audience, I want to do a preamble on you. Frank is one of the few people that I met on the production side and in the industrial production side that really knew who the hell dealers were and what they were capable of doing. And it was very interesting when he reached out to me while he was at EFI in 2006 when EFI bought Butech. And he invited me to their Connect meeting in 2007. And he proceeded for the next 15 years to educate me. and I thank you, Frank, for everything you taught me, which was considerable, about what an amazing industry it is in so many ways. And I'm so happy to see you working for one of the players in the business that really does a great job with dealers. So with that, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great. I'm so excited to be back. I took a little hiatus and I just love this industry. I think there's a lot more that will continue to happen. I think there's a lot more opportunities. And Frank, I thank you for over the years because it's interesting. I started in this business at the onset of digital. So I'm kind of an old school guy. Yeah, I've been around a long time, but I've been around with the start of digital technology. And, this industry has evolved many, many times. And I think there's going to be another evolution. And when I look at where production and where the business is going, I really, really like Konica Minolta's portfolio. I think their addressable markets and the areas that they're playing in really plays into sort of what the market needs in terms of moving forward.
Frank, I think one of the things you can do so well because you can articulate all aspects of this. One of the things that we're kind of trying to figure out for ourselves, what's the best way for the dealers going from production into IPP? In other words, should I recommend in our to our readers and go flatbeds, go large flatbeds, or what's your take?
What's interesting, when this business really started, and it really was coined industrial print, it goes back to maybe 2005. And when I was asked to build this team, I came from the office technology space and came from the traditional production space. So we couldn't manufacture turnkey industrial print reps. We had to train them and evolve. And one of the things I did over the years, and I did it consistently, is, whether you're selling an 80 page per minute, 140 page per minute device, or whether it's production inkjet or it's label, what's interesting? There is no difference. The difference is the application. And the applications typically dictate the profitability of the product that's being produced. That gets the sales cycle. Maybe you're gonna need to a little bit more about the total cost of ownership, because if you're gonna do something with some embellishments, and you're gonna get our print provider is gonna get more margin for that product, that needs to be captured and baked back into the total cost of ownership calculation. Those are the kinds of things that I think one needs to really learn the applications, learn what those profit contributions are for our customers. But the sales motion, quite honestly, I is the same. Selling a production cut sheet device, or I believe in a production inkjet, or even the wide format, for the most part, I think is the same. And I've always shared that with my folks. Just understand the applications and why how to differentiate that.
Well, that's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. So in other words, take your pick.
Exactly. I try to demystify, it's funny, you look at the reaction when you remember when production first came out and we were playing with, first it was digital MFPs and color MFPs, and then you moved into production and you talk about production and say, oh my gosh, this is a few $100,000 and you need specialization. And I always I demystified sort of that segment. It's like, okay, it's a faster device, so it's going to serve different volume bands. Let's identify what that is and how to go out and serve it. And most importantly, at that level, if you're selling print or you're in an implant, cost per piece. And in a commercial environment, it was always cost, but today I think is what are the high value output can I go out and produce? And so continuing that reinforcement, I'm going to say the same thing again, is just try to demystify it for people out there.
It's one of the things I've always experienced with dealers is when they look at new products, the first thing they look at is the service requirements and the supply business. How do I make money after we get this thing installed? And you told me once a long time ago, which we've since verified with commercial printers, the consumption of ink is huge.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in fact, I couldn't believe when you said to me, you pointed out one of the ViewTech machines, you said, we deliver ink in 55-gallon drums, right?
Very, very true. Going back to that conversation, Frank, I remember where, even way back then, a poster or just producing some sort of, grand format output, your typical CMYK, it's a commodity and, it's like anything else. But all of a sudden, when you go and add white to it, because it's a differentiator, and white then enables you to put it onto different substrates, you now can take your margin and in some cases grow at 5x. That really is the story on the back end of it. So it's not only profitable for for a reseller or profitable for a manufacturer, but it's very profitable for those producing the output.
I think one of the keys for the dealers in production print is getting the right mix of people into the business. Now, what would be your recommendation as the most critical part of that?
The folks that I've seen successful have always gone out and focused on the applications. You talked about also the workflow and the efficiencies around it. Not so much around, the products, the speeds and feeds, and having something that's like another product, because all you do is then you have a race to the bottom when it comes to pricing. You never talk about pricing in this segment. What you do is you talk about the cost per page or the cost per square foot, the cost per square meter, and then you work your way backwards. And that in itself should not interfere with the cost of the product, because if a print provider could justify the economics and they can mark up that cost per foot or square meter, then you got to win there. So those that have always been application centric and those that played in production over the years, they have that. There's some very successful people out there and they have it. And I think segueing them into that space is extremely well. My folks in the past came from all different backgrounds. Kodak, U.S.A, Canon. There weren't reps out there that were turnkey that knew this, and we just took those little nuggets and developed them. Of course, trained and educated, and lo and behold, they became experts.
Does Konica Minolta have any kind of training program for production?
So I've got to be honest with you. I've been on their internal portals, their learning centers. They've got incredible content. They've got terrific. In fact, I was on a call this morning with our label group on an educational series about the label business and the market and how that's changing. So we've got some terrific training content, both online and what's available through our specialist.
Frank, I can tell you, I'll speak for our staff. We're excited for you. We think that you joining Konica Minolta was a great move for both of you. And we wish you only the best. And all I can urge is the KM dealers to pay attention to what you got to say. Because if they do, they will learn a hell of a lot. I would like to ask something that is of great importance. What makes this possible are the people who subscribe. Hope you'll pay attention to that and join us and become a subscriber. Thank you.